I'm making Old Fashioned Molasses Cookies made with fresh milled flour. Welcome to White Shadow Fare. Make it homemade and make it with love. I started by milling my flour, 280 grams of soft white wheat. To a bowl, I'm measuring out 3/4 of a cup or 170 grams of shortening. I use this butter-flavored Crisco. And then I have a scale underneath my bowl. And I looked at that and thought, wow, this just doesn't look right. And I realized I hadn't gotten my scale back to grams. So good thing that I caught this, but almost a big mistake. Now I'm finally at 170 grams and I'm ready to add my sugar. I'm adding pure cane sugar, but white sugar would work as well. Once again, I'm weighing out my sugar with the scale below. And to this, you're going to add 1/4 of a cup or 80 grams of molasses. Now, molasses is a natural product that comes from the processing of sugarcane. And there's different types of molasses, but you want to be sure to use the light, the mild, or the regular. Those are just 3 different ways of saying the same thing. You do not want a black strap or a strong molasses for this. Cream this mixture together for 2 minutes. My mother's friend Kay used to make these for her, and we always called these Kay's famous cookies, and she would not share her recipe. So when my mother passed away, she did give us the recipe. And lo and behold, that recipe was just the same recipe that was on the back of the grandma molasses jar. So you scrape down the bowl as necessary. Get all of the lumps out of there and cream it all together. Now, the reason you're creaming the sugar and the shortening is it's helping to melt those sugar crystals and add a little bit of air to the mixture. And that'll help you have a higher rise to your cookies. So keep scraping down the bowl, getting everything completely incorporated, and at the end of the 2 minutes, you will add an egg. Somehow I lost the video of me adding the egg, but trust me, I added 1 egg here, and make sure it's room temperature. Now it's time for those nice spices. 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. This is going to give these molasses cookies that warm, homey feeling. Very typical of any molasses cookie. To this mixture, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and get that well incorporated. I was beginning to wonder, why do we add vanilla extract to all of our cookies, especially something like this that has the spices? I don't even know if you can taste the vanilla. So I had to look it up, and it said that vanilla enhances the flavor of other ingredients. So it's not just there for an ingredient for itself, but it makes other spices and things taste more delicious than they otherwise would. 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. Now, I've been adding baking powder to my cookies, and it has made a big difference, especially when you're using the heavy whole wheat fresh milled flour. It helps give a bit of a loft, so my cookies aren't as flat. And you can see with all that molasses, it's quite light in color because we added so much air to it at the beginning. Just weighing out my 280 grams of fresh milled flour. These are the perfect cookies to bake with fresh milled flour because they don't taste any different than the ones that you had with all-purpose flour. So if you're just trying to give this a try for the first time, this is definitely one that will come out perfectly. And I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. So I get it well mixed in and then add a little bit more. I don't want to overwhelm my mixer here. And I don't want to be wearing flour either. If you have too much in there, it's going to fly up in your face. If you haven't already done so, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to my channel. And let me know in the comments below if you have a cookie that reminds you of a loved one. Maybe it's their favorite cookie, like this was my mother's favorite cookie. I think as kids we weren't allowed to eat these cookies because she liked them, and so she coveted those cookies all to herself. So at the end here, I am just rolling all of the cookies in some extra sugar. And I'm going to put them in the refrigerator. So I used about 1/4 cup of cane sugar here. Once again, white sugar would work well if that's all you have. Molasses cookies freeze so well so that you don't have to eat them all at once. So I'm going to refrigerate these for at least an hour. If I was going to keep them in there overnight, I would just put some covering on it so that they didn't dry out. Due to their strong spices, these are not the best cookies to put on a cookie tray because they might give off their flavor to the surrounding cookies. So now that they're well chilled, I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. And I'm going to get these onto a baking sheet that has been lined. I always use a Silpat. So you're going to bake these for 10, maybe 11 minutes. And they might not look completely set, but you're going to let them sit on the tray and cool down for 2 to 3 minutes. My house smelled like the holidays because of all of those great spices. And they come off the tray so easily. They're soft in the inside. They've got those warm spices that warm up your soul. These are definitely a family favorite. Thank you for joining me at White Shadow Fair.